So just the other day, PFS on YT and I, we did a little bit of a podcast style video, and there was a comment left on that video that said, "You are a rock star." Jeremiah Babe mentioned you in a video, and between you and him, I feel like I have the information to help guide me. At the VFW, I tell everyone about these two channels, Veterans of Foreign Wars. It's just the straightforward information allowing us to make better decisions. I'm a huge promoter of you both. Thank you. Well, first off, thank you for number one, your service to this country, and number two, for the kind comment, and for also promoting and sharing our channels and names with other people that you feel as though it could be helpful and beneficial to. That is the goal here. The goal here is not to scare you. The goal here is not to fear monger, cause panic and crisis and ensue chaos. The goal here is to inform you and educate you and help you understand what's going on out there, have a collective think tank of like-minded individuals working towards a common goal of survival and success, which can only be accomplished through smart and intelligent preparedness and readiness. And I want to thank you, CJ, for that comment. I'm going to put it up on the screen so you guys can see it. And he's right. I watched Jeremiah Babe. He actually put up a video yesterday. And again, thank you, Jeremiah Babe, for the shout out. I don't know how I earned that, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. But Jeremiah Babe put up a video and it said the stock market crippled today. It's time to worry. And let me finish reading his title here. Stock market crippled today. It's time to worry. Stop laughing. The Fed ain't gonna save you. Gold. Now, gold is important. A lot of folks are relying on gold as a way of stored value to protect their wealth. And if you don't have gold or you don't have any wealth to preserve and protect at this time, then we need to have another conversation about that, because this shouldn't be just about surviving. This should be about thriving, okay? But Jeremiah Bay put up a video called Stock Market Crippled Today. It's time to worry. With that being said, I want you guys to be prepared. I am working on a video for you all that I'm going to try to get up. I'm going to try to get this video up tomorrow, maybe. And it is a stock market crash survival for 2022 going into 2023, because the stock market the stock market is down in comparison year over year. And we are seeing a decline in stock values, which ultimately has an effect on folks' retirement and 401k portfolios and retirement funds and balances, and potentially some passive income streams that folks were relying on to provide them with some comfort and some funds for retirement. Most of that being now used to offset the high cost of living and the increased price of food, groceries, necessities because of inflation. Hang on, check this out. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's not every day you see a woman riding a motorcycle. And down here in Florida, it's even stranger to see a woman riding a motorcycle with a helmet on, because there's no helmet law here. But either way, the stock market, there needs to be some more information brought to you guys, I think, about preparing yourselves for survival as it relates to the stock market. Because we're seeing Americans, the middle class, the working class, continuously struggling from a result of some government policies, some really relaxed and loose government spending, stimulus check releases, and just overall compounded impacts that have put us in this position, on top of some global economy changes, particularly with China, Russia, Ukraine, Taiwan, even India getting in the mix, Australia announcing the central bank. There's a central bank in Australia that ultimately it has a liquidity crisis. It's insolvent, ultimately going bankrupt. and moving towards fixing the problem just by printing more money. Huge concerns there. But this is it, guys. This is Sunday, September 25th. We've we've passed the point of Saturday, September 24th. These planned calendar events and dates of total collapse and doom and things like that. Sure, it could happen, but the odds are we're going to see a continuous decline over time, rather than an abrupt stop. And somebody actually made a good point, and they said, we really shouldn't worry about total collapse and total failure, or even worry about a nuclear war or anything like that, until there's evidence of another inhabitable planet that elites can escape to. This, besides just completely destroying them all here by unleashing that type of wrath, basically. Because once you start that up, you can't stop that, okay? And but talking about Jeremiah Babe and his video about the stock market crippled today, it's time to worry. Stop laughing. The Fed ain't going to save you. And the Fed has already announced that. The Fed, in my opinion, I think the Fed just needs to go ahead and stop playing and just go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off. And this is not 100% tied to stimulus checks. Stimulus checks did not really cause this problem, but they didn't help the problem. You think about the stimulus checks, you think about, Mitch McConnell, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, he'll say that stimulus checks is the reason why Americans don't want to work, because they're flushed with cash from stimulus checks. But for those who actually did get a check, or two or three, some people didn't even get one. It wasn't even that much money to really cause years later for people to not want to go to work. There's other factors and reasons behind that. We can get into that into another video. But, I think you add that to the other programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, which actually they ran twice, the EIDL grants and loans, a few $1 million per. And, it was a multi-trillion-dollar spending package to try to save the people, try to save the economy, trying to save. Now that I think about it, I'm not really sure what they were trying to save besides having an excuse to print the money. But at the end of the day, now we have to fight back from that. And like Jeremiah Babe's title here says, stop laughing. The Fed ain't going to save you. I hope you guys aren't viewing his title on his video as clickbait or fear. This is the truth, okay? And if the truth scares you, then I hate to break it to you, suck it up, buttercup. This is life. This is what we're living. Now, what we can do is we can ignore it and we can be upset with what's real, or we can understand it, identify it, and address it and attack it. I don't see Jeremiah Babe cowering in a corner and canning beans. I see him working on a solution, a financial solution, and preparing himself for what is more likely to occur, which is the likelihood of being priced out of living through inflation, through price increases, through job loss, through consumer confidence, through a stock market crash, through a very various assortment of financial attacks, cryptocurrency, stocks, housing market, auto industry. The auto industry, from the perspective of used car prices, banks, and what they have in these vehicles that they are repossessing and taking to auction, or at least they were trying to take to auction, and ultimately becoming unsuccessful with anyone interested in buying them because they're not worth it. But stock market crippled today. It's time to worry. Sure, it's time to worry, but not for everyone. And like I told you guys before, the economy may seem bad. Economies, markets, niches, certain commodities, certain industries, certain sectors may seem bad, but they're still good for others. It just depends. A real smart man, multi-millionaire, he actually said that he made his first million at a relatively young age. I think he was like 25 and made $1 million. And he said by 26 he lost it. And he said he actually did that 4 times. 4 times where he made $1 million and lost it completely before he actually started becoming a multimillionaire. He said, I knew how to make the money. I just didn't know how to keep the money and grow the money. And now he's a multimillionaire. I think he's making somewhere around $50 million a year is what his intake is. He runs a marketing company, which is very important. Pay attention. A marketing company. I think it's sales and marketing. $50 million in sales and marketing, and he probably doesn't touch a single product. Think about that, okay? Think about that for the folks interested in the YouTube group. Come on now, come on over. But he has something very interesting to say about fear, basically, about clickbait, about fear-mongering headlines and things like that. And he said, look, there's 3 ways of looking at things, and I never even thought about this till he said it. You got an optimistic view, and then you have a pessimistic view. But there's a third way of looking at things. So it's like you can look at a glass as half full, or you can look at a glass as half empty. And to me, I see Jeremiah Babe's title, and it says, the stock market crippled today, it's time to worry. So if you're pessimistic, you're going to look at this title and say, oh, this is clickbait, you're fear mongering, it's time to worry. Okay, sure. Now, if you're optimistic, you're going to look at it and say, I'm not worried, I'm confident, I'm secure, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I know what I'm going to do because the stock market is crippling. I am diversified, I am agile, I'm ready to attack this and make money. Now, the third way of looking at it is not as a glass half full and not as a glass half empty. It's about, let's just say it's a cup or a jug and it's half full. This multi-millionaire who makes $50 million a year, the same man who said, you shouldn't necessarily work smarter, not harder, because working hard is working smart. But he also said, if I see a jug or a cup half full or half empty of water, why not just cut the top off? Then it's completely full. And that's the way that those who are going to survive are going to be able to look at these situations and look at these obstacles and hurdles and realize how they can use them to their advantage and not worry in the traditional sense of the word, and at the same time help other people along the way who may be looking at it and be worried because they're unprepared, they're uneducated, and or unwilling to put the effort in to make the necessary changes and grind and hustle to survive. This is not going to be handed to you, which Jeremiah Babe clearly says it in the title. Stop laughing, the Fed ain't going to save you. Jerome Powell, the Fed, they've already increased the Fed benchmark interest rates again. They're going to continuously raise them. We're going to see them going up into 2023, and they're already projecting and predicting the fact that they won't be able to get inflation down to the target 2% until probably 2024, which we know if they're telling us 2024, it's going to be later than that. They're never on time and or early. So this is where we're at, okay? This is where we're at. And the question still comes down to, what are you going to do? What position are you in? Are you okay? We're going to go back to yesterday's video. Are you insulated from inflation? And even if you are, great. How long is that insulation going to last? What are you doing to prepare yourself for this lasting, which I said with the way that the economy is going or has been going for the last 12 to 24 months, if this were to continue for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, would you survive? Would you make it? Are you in a position to pivot and adapt to these changes, or are you going to get swallowed up alive? Are you going to get swallowed up whole? Is your family prepared? Are they going to meet their demise? Are they going to get wiped out? If we were to see any form of shutdown in our economy, whether it's the railroad workers union or any other supply chain form or credit or the banks shutting down or the housing market crash or anything like that, if your job were to shut down, somebody sent me a comment. They said that their credit union is actually closing in December, closing a branch, and they're forcing the customers, the account holders of the credit union, to disperse and use other locations that will not necessarily be convenient for them, for the fact that they can't staff the credit union and their rent for the space has gone up and they can't afford it anymore. You got to remember, these credit unions are non-profit, so they don't necessarily charge what the banks charge on fees and interest rates and things like that to the members. They're ultimately just there for the members for the most part. So all these factors come into play, and they said we're going to have to close a branch. We don't have enough employees that want to work here, and it's just becoming more of a pain and more of a hassle. So we're closing this one, reducing our overhead expenses, or trying to, because even closing the branch with the price increases and inflation that we're seeing, just because you close a branch, it may just bring your overhead operating expenses back down to where they were before, just because of all the increases, without you seeing an increase in revenues and an increase in profits. But that's getting into business 101. That'll be a different video. If you guys want it, comment below, let me know. But what would that do if you were an employee of that branch? What would that do to you if you needed to access, your bank, your credit union gets shut down and you need to access it? So now you got to increase your commute. You got to drive further. It's out of your way. It's inconvenient, costs more, burning more fuel, more wear and tear on your vehicle, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the question is, it's like, what are you going to do? Are you prepared? Are you only worried about stockpiling food? Are you only worried about stocking your pantry? Are you only worried about, setting up your farm and your homestead? I think someone actually commented on the video, and we're talking about the changes of the economic climate and what is likely to occur, especially as we roll into this holiday season, where buyer confidence is low, buyer ability is even lower, credit card limits are to the max, which I got a credit card video coming out for you guys. It's going to have a lot of very important information about credit cards, credit card limits, utilization rate or ratios, and ultimately interest rates, introductory interest rates, 0%. So basically borrowing free money to help some people bridge some gaps between paydays and major emergency unexpected expenses. But the holiday shopping season is going to be a dud. It's going to bomb. I'd be shocked if it was anything other than that, unless there's some outside force and some outside influence that changes that between now and November. But I'm telling you, now granted, perhaps maybe there may be some fluff. There may be some fluff. They're gonna fluff you up in the news and the media with the midterm elections. Got to get those votes. But the real truth, which what I want to bring you guys, is the real truth and realistic trends, what we're seeing in the economy, what we're seeing in business, and what we're hearing from consumers. And you guys can contest. We are all consumers here. We know what it's like. We know we are feeling this. The holiday shopping season 2022 is going to be a dud. So, if you got all that, what are you going to do? Besides, it's like, if that happens, folks' income is going to be at risk. Livelihoods are going to be at risk. Paying your bills are going to be at risk. And if all you're doing and all you're concerned with is growing food, that's cool. Sure, maybe you'll have something to eat, but how are you going to pay your bills? And, somebody said that they'll carry a backpack full of seeds and they're capable of feeding an entire community. Well, that's cool, but it still takes time, effort, and energy for these seeds to be planted and for them to be fertilized and harvested, grow, and that takes time. If you're hungry today, the seeds aren't going to help you. And that's where we're going to end up. We're going to end up at a point at which it's going to be so expensive to live. It's going to be so expensive to eat. It's going to be so expensive to provide for your family that if you're not doing what you need to do now to position yourself for that, you are at the greatest risk of absolute total failure. And like Jeremiah Babe said, The Fed ain't gonna help you. They're not.